Can you add a new link to the chat, Gary, please?
I can add it only to comments to previous stream.
Yeah. In the comments.
Maybe even tweet it out afterwards, Gary.
Nope, sorry, chat is closed. Good stuff.
Put it on Twitter, and we'll just drop it on here, and I can put it on Twitter and Discord and Telegram right now.
Yes.
Yeah, no worries. I think I don't know. We can just kind of do another 5 minutes or 10 for people that stuck by, but yeah.
Max, do you have a link to this stream?
All right, actually. Yeah, so let's wait for just a few more minutes to see if anybody else joins us in the meantime. 1 sec, let me see. So.
Great.
Oh, yep, thanks.
I'll put that on Telegram.
Okay. All right, I think we're live. We are indeed live. Let's just give it a few more minutes to see if the people that were looking for a stream found it. And then
did anyone put this on Twitter yet?
Nope.
Okay, I'll put that on there too.
All right, sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
All right. And Twitter.
Okay.
All right, links are up everywhere. Yeah, let's give it about 2 minutes, let people trickle in. I'd guess we'd get maybe 5 to 15 people watching for the last 10 minutes, but at least it's something.
Jack is asking, do you have like a fear and greed indicator for sentiment? It's a good question. We don't. Not at the moment, at least. But I mean, not in that sense. We do have, I think, different indicators that combined equal a common fear and greed index. But yeah, we should definitely, I think, create something like a complement, basically like a sentiment custom fear and greed index, right? I think things that we can add inside it would be social sentiment, would be network profit loss, would be MVRV. So these things that actually point to general investor and crowd sentiment, I think would be quite interesting for people, because fear and greed index in general, I think is quite, it's quite a generic metric. I usually kind of just gloss over it because it's not really based on any fundamentals, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty arbitrary, and it's based on what the developers decide these 0 to 100% should be. But weighted social sentiment, I believe, could be pretty close to it. You know, for those who have access, graphs.sentiment.net/social, you can see when it's under 0, that's in the bearish territory, or I'm sorry, bullish territory. When it's over 0, that's the bearish territory. And then, yeah, as Dino said, some other metrics like profit loss, MVRV, DAA, all those combined, I think could be interesting.
Yeah, as Coffee says, it comes down to the fact, I think, that a lot of people don't still understand how to read on-chain analytics and how they can benefit from it. And yeah, Coffee, definitely agree. I mean, this is something that we discover quite often when talking to new customers and potential customers, and that's why we're trying to invest a lot of time in writing these market insights and creating tutorials so that people can really start figuring it out for themselves how to use this data. And part of this is these streams as well. Okay, I'm gonna actually start showing once again what where I ended up. I think it was around here. So let's assume that the last thing you guys heard me talk about was network realized profit or loss, right? So I was starting to talk about the fact that uh, outside of bottom indicators, we also saw a number of strong top indicators in the past couple of weeks for DeFi coins in general, and altcoins outside of the DeFi specter as well, like the Golem or GNT here. So one of them is obviously exchange inflow. This is something that we see quite often. Is the fact that when we see these spikes in exchange inflow, essentially it means that the amount of GNT being moved from individual addresses to centralized exchanges is growing rapidly. Especially if this happens during this sort of price rally like we saw here and here, it can indicate rising sell pressure, which is going to be relatively difficult for bulls to absorb if they're not confident in the price pushing upward, especially given this already, like, I would say 40% gain here. By the way, Brian, I think I can hear you typing, so it could be good if you mute yourself in the meantime. Yeah. So spikes in exchange inflow, as you can see here for GNT, coinciding with both local corrections here. A massive spike in exchange inflow happening here during a Lynx chart upward. Obviously, this is not immediately going, sometimes not immediately going to be absorbed by centralized exchanges, not immediately going to be sold off. So it does take, I think, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to realize and materialize on the chart. Once again, we see here exchange inflow for REN spiking during this sort of interim top and then spiking once again before a local correction here. So on the other side, one thing that we haven't really discussed much today is social data and its impact on the price. So very often we see spikes in social volume coinciding with local price tops or incoming corrections, especially when these spikes in social volume happen during a price rally, which usually is the case for a lot of altcoins. So I would say in about 90% of the cases, what we see is we see social volume spiking for altcoins that are below top 10 only when they start pumping. Very rarely do you see like a strong sustained amount of social mentions for a particular coin if it's not growing in price, right? As you would expect. I think mostly for Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can see spikes in social volume sometimes even during local bottoms, sometimes during large announcements like Deposit 2.0 contract going live. However, for stuff like Decentraland, it's really only going to capture mainstream crypto attention when it is showing a strong price move up like here. And as a result, very often these spikes in social volume point to peak hype moments. FOMO starts to permeate pretty much all discourse about a coin, and whales very often tend to kind of start offloading their bags. So we see here a larger spike in social volume coinciding with a local correction for Decentraland. We've seen this very clearly happen with Elrond here in the late October pump. We saw this happen with Golem as well before this short-term correction here. Now, one thing that I will shill or brag about here is that I mentioned in this article, so this was a couple of days ago while Aave was still pumping. So I mentioned in this article that this particular spike in social volume might be relatively concerning for the coin, right? Because it's an all-time high, at least since the launch of the coin. It's the highest amount of daily mentions of Aave on crypto social media ever. So I said that we might very soon see a case that, like we've seen here, like a short-term correction, because Aave was just, it was recording a sustainable rise or like steady rise, but it was also coming on the leg of this massive spike in social volume. So what we can see live now, what happened with Aave, it's pretty much that. So let's change the interval to 12 hours. There you go. So this is obviously, it's not going to always be this evident or this obvious, right? Very often you'll see sort of spikes, several spikes along the way as well. Sometimes, however, it's going to be really as obvious as this. This is crowd really FOMOing into the coin, which very often is a strong signal that we might be headed for a short-term correction. It's not necessarily going to like happen for, it's not going to last for weeks on end, but you definitely don't want to buy. I mean, definitely, not a financial advice. You definitely want to reconsider your position if you're holding Aave here when the crowd is talking about, we're going to go to maybe 70, 80, 100 and stuff like that. So these types of increases in the amount of mentions of Aave, as well as a general sort of sentiment towards Aave being extremely bullish, can very often point to short-term correction. So by social volume, I don't know if we mentioned, but the way that we track social volume, we have our own custom data set that nobody else has. We've built up a network of over 1,000 different crypto social media channels. So we now track thousands of or hundreds of Telegram groups, Discord channels, all of the major crypto subreddits, popular Twitter accounts, professional trader chats that are hidden from Google, all of the channels that we think are mostly, cryptocurrency related. So the main topic of discussion are cryptocurrencies. So when I think, collect about 100,000 messages a day from these different channels, and then we combine it to create a variety of metrics. And one of these metrics is social volume, basically just the amount of mentions of a particular coin on crypto social media over time. And you can kind of see how it's correlating with the price. So this is one other thing that I would keep an eye on when I'm evaluating potential exit opportunities, is how much interest does the crowd show toward a particular coin. So currently, not that much, but around this price top, there was definitely a spike. So I think finally, before we end it, guys, if you have any specific coins that you would like us to look into, since we are, we've already restarted the stream, let us know. But I've seen, before we ended, I've seen some questions about Ethereum. So I wanted to just briefly show some of the sort of Ethereum related metrics. We can start with social volume. Like you can see here for Ethereum as well, right? That the spike in social volume coinciding with local top, spike in social volume coinciding with local top. But also very often, like I said, for Ethereum and Bitcoin, we can see spikes in social volume also earmarking local bottoms, like we saw here and here, and here as well. And here as well. Obviously, this was a spike because of the deposit contract for Ethereum 2.0 going live. But in general, for big or large caps like Ethereum and Bitcoin, social volume isn't necessarily only going to be a top indicator. It can also be, when the crowd is talking about, maybe here, how Ethereum is going to go down in the dumps. It's also a potential bottom indicator as well. So currently, I think in the past couple of days, we've just seen the amount of mentions of Ethereum kind of continue to decline, similar to what we've seen with Bitcoin. If we zoom out a bit, or if we zoom in a bit, we can see this more clearly. So ever since this local top here, where we spiked quite significantly, there has been a decline in the amount of Ethereum-related mentions of crypto social media over the last 3 days. This is generally something that should be deemed relatively positive for the coin. You don't necessarily want to see these large spikes in social volume because very often they point to periods of peak hype, people FOMOing into the coin, which is not necessarily the time that you want to buy, right? So this is as far as social volume is concerned. Now, as far as the MVRV is concerned, which I think is a metric that you need to look at when analyzing any particular coin, Ethereum's MVRV isn't actually that high. So the way that I like to think of MVRV is basically what is the average unrealized profit of a particular group of holders. So for example, right now, all addresses that have acquired Ethereum in the past 30 days, the unrealized profit, average unrealized profit, is plus 11%. So all addresses that have acquired Ethereum in the past 30 days are on average up 11%. So the question that then you need to ask yourself is, is this enough for them to start offloading their bags, or would they be okay with holding for a bit longer, see their bags overflow, and then start to take profits? So one of the ways that you can kind of answer that question is by looking at historical trends and by looking at the patterns that happened historically or the local tops and bottoms for MVRV, pointing to the fact that these were sort of danger zones, or were danger zones in the past where local or short-term holders were looking to start offloading their bags and start taking profits. So in the past year, Ethereum's 30-day MVRV has peaked at 33% and 32% respectively. So this is or has been established as a sort of a danger zone over the last year. You can also take anything above, let's say, like 20%. So yeah, somewhere between 20 and 32%, 33%. Anything in that time range, or sorry, in that MVRV range, usually seems to be a zone earmarking local tops. You can see here before a correction, here before a correction, here before a short-term correction as well. So currently, the fact that we're about 11% isn't that concerning. I mean, if a lot of people are bullish on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, which I think a lot of people are, I still see my Twitter feed inundated with screenshots of the Deposit 2.0 contract and the amount of Ethereum staked daily. So people are still, I think, 2.0 is going to be a catalyst or can be catalyst for Ethereum in the next couple of weeks. So if a lot of people agree with me, they might be okay with sitting on their bags for a while longer and not realizing their profits, but rather waiting for 500, maybe even 600 before starting to skim off the top. Now, as far as the long-term Ethereum holders are concerned, it's also like it's relatively high, but it's also not close to a yearly high as well. So the unrealized profit of, let's call them longer-term holders, Ethereum holders at the moment, is 51. Okay, I need to zoom in a bit. It's 49.25%. So about 50% is the unrealized profit, average unrealized profit of all addresses that have acquired Ethereum in the past year. We have peaked here at about 70. No, it was higher, right? It was like 80, about 85%, I think. Yeah, 87% here. So we're maybe like 2/3 of a way through to a local MVRV top according to last year's worth of data. We can also look at a previous year, so the 2019 bull cycle high, to kind of see where we were. So this is Ethereum's top in 2019. We peaked at about 71%. So I think in general, even compared to a bull cycle high in 2019, we can still go higher. Basically, is what I'm saying. As far as the 365-day ratio is concerned, and as far as the 30-day ratio is concerned, we can see very sort of clear demarcation lines or danger zones. This was 30. What was it? Come on, show it to me, baby. Okay, let me zoom in a bit. 34%. Okay, so looking back, let's say 01/01/19. So it was 34% peak at 2019, 32% or sorry, 33% here and 32% here. So this has been established as a potential danger zone for Ethereum's MVRV. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't correct even sooner, right? If the crowd is, or if the market participants and holders are unconvinced of Ethereum's near-term potential, they can start to take profits even sooner, like it happened here, right? However, currently, I don't think that's the general market sentiment. That's at least my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. My Twitter feed and the people that I talk about on a daily basis, a lot of people seem to be convinced that Ethereum could go higher, just based on both TA and fundamentals and the 2.0 beacon chain, potentially going live on December 1st. So this is as far as Ethereum's average or realized profit is concerned. One thing that I noticed recently is that we were once again seeing miners look to dump. And actually, yeah, let me show you historical trends for this metric as well, because I think it's interesting. So this is the total amount of Ethereum being held by Ethereum mining pools, all Ethereum mining pools, all right? So it's basically the total amount held by miners. And you can see the sort of these declines in Ethereum miner balances coincide with sometimes short-term price stops here and here in 2019. Here, even before the Black Thursday crash, we actually saw miners start to offload around local February top. Here during the peak in June 2020, and then here finally coinciding with this ranging period, and then eventually a market-wide crash on September 1st. More recently, there have been two dips in Ethereum's miner balances. One, as Ethereum crossed 400, where miners were like, all right, I think it's time to start taking some profit, maybe refinance our operations. And then here in the past couple of days as well, actually past week, we've seen another sort of sell-off period for miners. So this isn't necessarily all that concerning. Like if you look at the actual numbers, we go from about 1.12 million Ethereum being held by miners to 1.1. So it's about 20,000 Ethereum. So it's not like market breaking. However, Ethereum miners are definitely one of the key stakeholders in the entire network. So the behavior of Ethereum miners does tend to have a ripple effect throughout the network in the market. So it's something definitely to keep an eye on. A potential yellow flag in Ethereum's on-chain data. And then finally, we can look at the amount of Ethereum being funneled to exchanges. And you can see just based on this, a moment ago, I said that I don't think a lot of people are bearish about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, and I don't think a lot of people are, looking to sell at these levels. And it seems like Ethereum's on-chain data is agreeing with this. So let's start with daily active deposits. This is the amount of this is the amount of addresses that are moving Ethereum to exchanges on a daily basis. So essentially, when you send Ethereum to an exchange, to a centralized exchange, it doesn't hit the exchange wallet immediately. It first hits a deposit address, which is owned by exchanges as well. So here we only track the active deposit addresses on a daily basis for Ethereum. So you can kind of see this rise in daily active deposits both here during the local top and here in September of 2020, pointing to a rising sell side pressure, right? More and more addresses moving Ethereum to exchanges, coinciding with local corrections, and here local consolidation and a correction eventually. Over the last 2 and 3 weeks, the opposite has occurred. People are on average sending less Ethereum to exchanges. And I think if we look at exchange flow balance, which is the amount of Ethereum, so the difference between the inflow of Ethereum to exchanges and outflow of Ethereum from exchanges, we can see strong outflows of Ethereum from exchanges here once the Ethereum deposit contract was announced, basically pointing to the fact that some people were moving their Ethereum away from exchanges, I would say likely into a staking contract. And then more recently, if we look at the general trends as far as the amount of Ethereum moving to exchanges is concerned, we can see a declining sort of exhausted sell side pressure here. So on average, Ethereum speculators seem to be content with holding to their bags for the time being. The trend as far as interaction with exchanges for Ethereum is definitely a downtrend. Take that as you like. Sometimes I think this can be market reacts in surprising ways. So if a lot of people are very confident in a price action of a particular coin, which I think a lot of people are for Ethereum, and on-chain data seems to suggest so as well, there's definitely a lack of fear that can sometimes bite them in the ass as well. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, so I don't know if we've had any questions about particular coins. If not, guys, I'll give a few more minutes if anybody wants us to look into any particular coin before we end it. We'll just let you know that if you are interested in anything that you saw today during the stream, check out app.santiment.net. Everything that we talked about today is there. There's a 2-week trial where you can try anything on our platform for free, and then from that point on, it's $49 a month, $45 if you pay for a yearly plan. And we are constantly adding new features. Just this month, we've added, I think, 3 more metrics, including network profit loss, price DA divergence, and rolling 24-hour daily active addresses. And we're constantly updating the platform. So, things are going to be added and indicators are going to be added to the platform all the time. So, okay, I see link and dash if possible. Okay, let's do a link really quickly before we end. because I haven't actually checked that link for a while. So curious as well what's going on with it. All right, so let's start with like just general activity on the link network, right? Let's start with rolling active addresses. This is the amount of active addresses on Chainlink that are being updated every hour, right? But it's the amount of daily active addresses, but updated every hour. So let's look at the last 6 months. So this is the DeFi summer hype. A lot of addresses interacting with Chainlink. I think, because Chainlink is supporting or providing price reference data for a lot of these DeFi projects. Obviously, a lot of activity has also kind of trickled down into interacting with the Chainlink token as well. You can definitely see a sort of lull or decline. You see this with a lot of DeFi coins. Like if I compare Rent's data, you can see the same thing, daily active addresses. Yeah, so DeFi summer, and then boom, we kind of drop off, and then we had a slight recovery. I think a lot of different DeFi coins have had the same pattern. So if we zoom out of the DeFi summer phase, we can kind of see that, on average, there hasn't really been an uptrend in Link's daily active addresses, but it has kind of remained relatively stable. So here we can see almost 8,000 addresses interacting with Chainlink, which would definitely put it in like the top 5 or 6 coins on the Ethereum network, right? So if we're just examining this from a sort of midterm potential, Chainlink is still an extremely active coin and is being transacted with and interacted with extremely highly on a daily basis. Now, I also want to look at age consumed and kind of see what the behavior of long-term holders for Chainlink has been. So we kind of see spikes in a number of different places. In the past week, however, there hasn't been any. So after this spike, which I think came somewhere in the midpoint as we were approaching a local high here as we were actually approaching $13, there was a spike in age consumed last. However, since then, this is last weeks of data. We haven't really seen any strong signs of movement of previously dormant coins. So hodlers, Chainlink hodlers, have not been very active in the past week, indicating sort of relative confidence in the coin's midterm potential. So if you look at it from a different perspective, this is mean dollar invested age. So one of the ways that you can kind of understand this metric is if we see a rising slope, it points to, on average, network-wide accumulation or people staying true or holding their bags. And then if we see a declining slope, like we have seen here, it points to network-wide distribution. People starting to move their link, and especially people starting to sell link that they have acquired at high prices. So currently, or actually in the past 2 months, we haven't really seen strong dips in the mean dollar invested age, pointing to the fact that on average, Chainlink holders have been staying true to their bags, haven't been dumping. There hasn't been any sort of strong redistribution events in Chainlink's data. Once again, pointing to the fact that Link Marines, they're sitting on their bags for the time being. The MVRV, or the unrealized profit of short-term Chainlink holders at the moment, is about 8%. If we look at the last years of data, just to kind of put that in perspective, we're not really even close to local tops or kind of danger zones. 40% up to, I think this was what, 50%. So plus 8% for Chainlink holders, I think, is not something that they would consider a dumping zone. I think they would consider holding good onto their bags a bit longer before they start, exerting strong sell side pressure. And then as far as the 365-day data is concerned, so the MVRV, or the unrealized profit of all addresses that have acquired Link in the past year, is plus 40%. But once again, we can see that these addresses as well, so long-term Link holders, are perfectly capable of holding for quite a while longer before starting to dump. So similar to Ethereum, and unlike Bitcoin, the MVRV is in the positives, meaning that on average, Chainlink holders do have unrealized profits, but historically these were not sort of periods of time where we saw them start to offload and start taking some profits, right? So take that as you wish. And then finally, I also wanted to check exchange related data for Chainlink. So I think this is a period where we saw a lot of people, that bought here, or actually that bought here, sorry, start to offload their bags. Strong spikes in Chainlink exchange inflow during this September correction, pointing to the fact that, yeah, indeed, people were looking to cut their losses. The DeFi summer was over, and you can kind of see that coinciding with this spike in amount of Link being moved to exchanges and a correction for Link in the aftermath. More recently, we have seen spikes here and there in the amount of Link being moved to exchanges, coinciding sometimes with local tops like here and here. That said, when you see, usually the way that I like to look at exchange inflow, especially when when a spike happens during a sort of local bottom or a downtrend like this, is you ask yourself, all right, a lot of people seem to be moving Link to exchanges during a downtrend. Will there be a sustainable buy pressure, or will the bulls be able to absorb this pressure? Essentially, will the bulls be okay with buying this increased pressure at these levels? I think it's more likely that they will be able to absorb this pressure here than they will be able or willing to buy into Chainlink here once again, right? So this is why I think a lot of sort of spikes in exchange inflow during a downtrend can coincide with the recoveries, as Link bulls respond very actively. However, when it happens during an uptrend, there's less people willing to buy new Chainlink into a price pump, very often coinciding with the local correction, right? So overall, maybe let's look at daily active deposits for a more clear picture. Yeah, so here and there, I think these are sort of local jitters. Overall, I don't think there's any sort of massive so you can see it kind of here, obviously earmarking local top. But since then, I don't think there's any sort of like massively concerning sign in Link's exchange flow data. There's sometimes people are moving in, sometimes people are moving out on a midterm basis. I wouldn't find this particularly concerning, especially compared to this massive sell-off period during the September correction, right? For now, I think this is just like local speculative demand. All right, so I think we might have to end it here, guys. Sorry, it's been a stream full of audio problems and then stream issues. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the presentation today. We would certainly appreciate you, subscribing to the stream, liking the stream, and commenting on the video below, just to kind of let YouTube know that you enjoyed the content. And if you would like us to look at any other coins or just talk about the market with us, be sure to check out the Santiment Discord channel or the Discord server. The link is going to be in the description of this video. So, if there were questions that I saw a few of them remaining unanswered during the stream, just ping us in our trading channels or Discord, and we can kind of check out a few charts there as well. So, Brian, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can wrap it up here.
Yeah, let's put a cap on it. Thanks again, Dino, for your analysis and answering some of the YouTube questions. And thank you all who stuck with us for the second half of this stream. Sorry again for the outage, and we will be sure to correct that next time to make sure it goes from start to finish without any hiccups. Once again, make sure you check out the Sandbase Pro pricing page. We have great deals coming up, and we'll be announcing something soon for the holiday season as well. But it's $45 a month for the year subscription and $49 for a month. And I really hope you guys want to give it a shot, because as you can see from these calls, there is quite a bit of advantage to having these kinds of metrics in real time at your disposal. So give it a thought, ask us any questions, and we're happy to clarify anything we can do for you before you actually make the purchase. For now, Brian and Dino signing off, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.